Good morning and welcome to AI with Kyle. It is January the 14th and there is a picture of myself on screen if you are wondering why that is. I had a video kickoff yesterday and I think on Instagram we're about 200,000 views, or about 100,000 or so on TikTok as well, around the question of vibe coding. It has hit a nerve and a lot of people, over 250,000 people, are watching it, engaging with it, and quite a few of them are a little bit angry. I wanted to talk about what vibe coding is. I wanted to clear up some misconceptions. I want to help people who are wondering why others are getting so upset about this, understand why this is a big deal. Even if you are not a coder, even if you are not somebody who programs, I want to show you why paying attention to what vibe coding is probably going to be very useful. Actually, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have lots of ideas, and vibe coding is extremely exciting. So I've put together a few resources for you, and we're going to be talking about the topic and how you get involved in it as well, and clearing up a few issues. Now, this is a very loaded subject, so I'm expecting this video, once it goes onto YouTube and the various other social platforms, to again upset some people. I'm going to talk about why that makes sense, and why, if you are a programmer, if you are a coder, it is perfectly reasonable to hate vibe coding. It's perfectly reasonable to get upset about this stuff. So I've put together a little presentation about vibe coding. I'm going to talk about what it is, how you can get started, and useful ways to think about it. I actually want to start though with Alberta Tech. Make sure you're following them over on social media, and they have a Substack called Computers Were a Mistake. Very good read. So Alberta Tech is a coder, is a programmer. And they start here: over the past 6 months, I've made 21 videos making fun of vibe coders. It's easy pickings, from your product manager who vibe coded an app but has no idea what a test is, to some guy on your LinkedIn feed who wants you to check out his website on localhost 3000. If you aren't a developer yourself, you might not quite understand why so many people enjoy these jokes, or why I keep bothering to make them in the first place. So let me explain. Now, this is one of the best explanations I've ever heard, so I'm going to read this in full. Imagine you have been training your entire life to be a violinist. Every day you show up to rehearsal with a group of people who had to pass 5 rounds of interviews, auditions, to join the orchestra. Then one day, 700 people walk in off the street into your rehearsal and claim that they are vibe violinists. They break instruments, they sound horrible, they clutter up your Twitter feed with recordings of their work. You and your real violinist friends laugh, and you trade stories about how these people don't know the difference between a tailpiece and a fingerboard. Then one day, not that many days later, something terrifying happens. You hear a beautiful tune and turn around to find a vibe violinist playing it. And certainly you think to yourself, that shouldn't be possible without a foundational music education. That shouldn't be possible when they're not even holding a violin the right way. You listen a while longer until in a blink they falter, they lose the melody. And so you turn back to your real violinist friends and you laugh at how these nincompoops thought they could just play like real violinists. You laugh, and all the while you feel a tingle of anxiety along your scalp. It's a really fucking scary time to be a developer. That is the truth of it. Whether vibe coders actually start applying for developer roles, or AI automates those roles away altogether, vibe coders are the embodiment of the end of a traditional coding career, at least in the way that many of us have come to know it. And actually, it's quite normal to hate the person who's trying to take your job. It's actually really quite normal to hate the guy who's trying to take your spot in the orchestra while trying to play his instrument upside down. But I think we know deep down it isn't his fault that he doesn't know the difference between Beethoven and Britney. Being able to code is an amazing opportunity, and at the end of the day, I find it hard to fault someone for wanting to use all of the tools available to them to actualize their ideas. Many developers, including myself, are of the opinion that AI tools may almost entirely take over the job of coding very soon, leaving developers in a place where their primary job is directing AI agents, debugging when things go wrong, and designing higher level systems. In a lot of ways, this future is hopeful. It's a future of less leet code, a future where junior engineers don't spend their early 20s bogged down by obscure Rust syntax and instead get to learn more senior skills more quickly. But it's also a future where you might end up being a vibe conductor of a vibe orchestra. Don't worry, when that happens, I'll make sure to start posting videos making fun of you too. So I highly recommend you subscribe to Alberta Tech Substack and make sure to follow them over on social media. This is one of the most, I think, beautiful and poignant expressions of the very genuine and very understandable upset and fear that a lot of people in the coding industry and the programming industry might be feeling about vibe coding, about AI in general. So let's hop in and have a look at what vibe coding actually is. I will put this in the newsletter tomorrow so you can read that full article yourself and take your time over it, and make sure to subscribe as well to their Substack. So vibe coding is a relatively new term. It was coined and popularized by a guy called Andrej Karpathy, one of the co-creators of ChatGPT, only in 2025. So actually, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the term vibe coding. There's a new kind of coding I call vibe coding, where you fully give into the vibes, embrace exponentials and forget that the code even exists. It's possible because the large language models, e.g. Cursor, Composer with Sonnet, are getting too good. Also, I just talked to Composer with Super Whisper, so with a microphone, so I barely even touch the keyboard. I ask for the dumbest things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half because I'm too lazy to find it. I accept all, always. I don't read the diffs anymore. When I get error messages, I just copy and paste them in with no comment. Usually that fixes it. The code grows beyond my usual comprehension. I'd have to really read through it for a while. Sometimes the LLMs cannot fix a bug, so I just work around it and ask for random changes until it goes away. It's not too bad for throwaway weekend projects, but still quite amusing. I'm building a project or web app, but it's not really coding. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, and copy-paste stuff, and it mostly works. Now, this is not just some random guy. This is Andrej Karpathy. He co-created ChatGPT. He is a very good programmer. He's a very good coder. He's at the top of his game, but he plays around with AI to create software. And we heard the other day that from Boris over at Claude, let me find him, Boris Cherney, they've just released, as of yesterday, something called Claude Code. Let me find him on Twitter. There he is. Claude Code Co-work, which is a version of Claude Code for the average person. The really important part of this, yes, cool, it's a great project, but the really exciting part is that it was built in, I can't find the tweet, but it was built in 1.5 weeks, and all of the code was written using Claude Code. So even at top levels, people are using artificial intelligence to build. Now, there are differences between vibe coding and AI-assisted coding. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but those lines are increasingly blurred. Increasingly, people are just talking to their computers. Andrej Karpathy, a couple of years ago, actually said that the new programming language you should be studying, the most important programming language, is English. It is natural language and the ability to talk and communicate your ideas, to get something out of your head and explain it in a written form or verbally, if you're using a microphone, to a computer so that it can understand what you actually want. It is communication that is becoming increasingly more important. It is not the technical syntax, it is not the programming language, but it is your ability to articulate what it is you want. Very, very big shift. So we have different forms of artificial intelligence being used in coding, and as I mentioned, the lines are getting blurred. So vibe coding is very much, let me pull it up, vibe coding is very much a hands-off approach, sometimes dangerously allowing permissions, letting your computer just kind of go nuts and do kind of adjust the file system and completely go for it. It's called a YOLO mode, bad idea for the most part. Whereas AI-assisted code tends to be for people who are more au fait, more competent with actual traditional programming, and they're using artificial intelligence to help them autocomplete, to help them come up with functions, for example, that they might not have a full grasp on, and they're just using the AI to assist them whilst they build something. Vibe coding is different. Vibe coding is just saying, hey, this is what I want to build, and then working with the AI step by step by step. And then you're going to have something in between, which is working out the general architecture of what it is you want to build, and then using the AI, orchestrating the AI agents to build the pieces step by step. So this is why it is blurred, because it depends on what level of control you have and what level of control the AI has. But vibe coding as a term generally means we're giving away the control to the AI and we are just trusting in it. It is Jesus take the wheel, but with Claude Code instead. The really important thing though is you can actually get better at vibe coding. So most people start just by saying, hey, I want to make a basic fitness app. Can you do that for me? And the tools that we use will be able to get the basics done, absolutely. But you'll run into problems when you do not architect what it is you want to build early on. If you don't actually have a clear image of in your head and on paper of what you want to build, then as you start to build with the vibe coding tool step by step, you're just accreting and blobbing on new functions, new cool things as and when the idea comes to you. So you end up with a bit of a mess. And this tends to happen to most people who are vibe coding for the first time. It will start off fine, and then as they increase the scope, as they increase the complexity, because there was no plan to start with, because there was no actual structure that they were working towards, we end up with a bit of a mess. So that is a problem that is getting more and more ameliorated over time because the tools are getting better and better. The reason why people are getting very upset about this though is coding took an awfully long time to learn. It took years, if not decades, to learn to be a computer programmer, especially seniors have been doing this stuff for decades. And this is why over on my Instagram I have thousands of comments now where people are very, very, very upset about what it is I'm saying, and they go on and on and on. A lot of these people are coders, and again, as we just covered in Should We Hate Vibe Coders, there are good reasons to be upset about this. What we're seeing is the democratization of a technology, of a skill, and putting it into the hands of people who have not spent years building this skill. If you have spent years building this skill, if you've gone and got a computer science degree, if you have learned multiple languages and you have put in all of the work and the time and the effort, this is incredibly upsetting. In the same way that when photography came out, fine artists who were doing oil painting thought that was trash and that we should, ban photography and it shouldn't be allowed. And then we had to shift from film photography to digital cameras. And again, the film photographer is like, oh no, that doesn't count. That's not real photography. We've had it in music. So digital audio workstations, DAW, I don't even know what it stands for, taken over, digital music production taken over from traditional composing. And we see this again and again and again in multiple different industries, and there's always going to be resistance from the people who are in control already, the people who have control of the skill, who have spent all of that time. They're going to very naturally be upset and push back when something comes along and makes that accessible, makes it easy. And they're going to say, this doesn't count, this isn't real, this is not real coding, this is not real photography, this is not real art. That is an extremely natural and very, very human reaction. It's also one that is hard to justify as we go further and further. So we're seeing this in multiple fields of artificial intelligence. And there's this tweet from Aaron Francis a couple of days ago, or a week ago, where he pointed out that in 2021, AI can't even autocomplete a line of code. It was trash. So at the time, people were like, oh, AI is never going to be able to help us code. It's never going to be able to program. It's a joke. This was 4 or 5 years ago. 2022, okay, it can write a line of code, sure, but it can't write a whole function. It's stupid, it's crap. 2023, well, it can't even pass the coding interview. Like, it's not at that kind of level. Yeah, sure, it can write a function, it can do lines and stuff, but it can't do a coding interview. 2024, it can't even build an app. 2025, it can't even handle complex projects. 2026, oh no. Remember that AI gets better. Betting against it and betting that it's not going to get any better than it is right now is not a good bet. It really is not. You have to remember that it is the worst it will ever be, what we have right now. The Claude Code that we're using today is the worst it will ever be moving forward. This is an Ethan Mollick thing that he's been talking about for years. Remember, today's AI is the worst AI you will ever use. The writing will improve, The amount of words the AI can hold in memory will improve, and the costs will drop. And this was a couple of years ago he wrote this, and this has been true for the last 2 or 3 years, and it will continue in this way. So betting against AI coding or AI in any area not getting better and better and better is not very smart. It's been proved again and again that the capabilities can surpass what we assume they can do. So 2026, we are now falling back in coding with saying, oh, well, sure, it can put together an application, but it can't really architect complex projects. And then we see that it can architect complex projects. And then we'll have like, oh, well, it's not secure. Security is an issue, cybersecurity. And then that will then be a fixed problem a year or two down the lines. We'll just keep falling back and falling back and falling back. And we're now moving into the argument where people are saying, well, it still needs a human operator because it doesn't know what to build. It still needs taste. It still needs somebody to work with the client if you are building for someone. It still needs somebody to work out what that product is that we should actually be building in the first place. So what is happening is the skill ceiling is rising up and up and up and up and up. And that is absolutely what we're seeing in every single industry. So what I wanted to say though is if you are a coder, yes, this is a problem. And the sooner you recognize this, the sooner you can start to pivot into something else. This comes to the question that people keep asking me is like, should I learn to code? Yes, you should learn to code. It's a really useful skill and it's fascinating. However, you should not learn to code so that you can become a coder as your job. That is looking risky. That would be a bad move right now. You should learn to code so you can understand how these things work, so you can understand how to architect things and what it is you can build. But you should apply that skill in a more entrepreneurial way. So I think there is a disaster awaiting people who are staying in the job of programming. Especially for junior people, that's going to get wiped out, and then it's going to be very hard to progress to a senior. So I think there's a disaster awaiting us there. And this is not just coding, this is in multiple industries. However, if you use your skills in coding, if you use your skills in AI and you start to build for yourself, you start to create your own products and you start to work out how to release them, how to market them, how to get them out into the world, I think there are untold opportunities right now. It's a really exciting time if you, instead of pushing back against this technology, embrace it and use it yourself to build something that you own. So I think there's an opportunity and a disaster here. Entrepreneurs, it's fantastic. The tools are democratized. You can go from an idea in your head to a reality extremely quickly, and it gives you just a massive amount of leverage. Previously, whenever I went to entrepreneurship events or anything to do with people starting businesses, the main block was people did not have the technical support. So I'd always meet people and they'd say, I've got $1 billion idea, $1 billion idea, I'm going to make so much money. I just need to raise some money to hire developers, or I need to find a CTO who's going to join me, or I just need to learn Python. I just need to quickly learn how to code. So this would be the blockage, the technical implementation of that $1 billion idea, which always made me laugh, because if it's really worth $1 billion, then why are you not? Well, why are you not spending a year learning to code? Why are you not hiring someone? Because $1 billion is an awful lot of money. Instead, now you can go from an idea to an MVP, a basic version of your product, in an hour, probably less, using a tool like Lovable. If you're a bit more technical, you can use Cursor, and if you are happy to learn, you can use Claude Code, which is basically the best agent out there right now. This means that if you are entrepreneurial and have an idea, you can no longer hide behind the technical excuse. You can no longer say, oh, I've got this great idea, I just don't know how to build it. You can now build it. And very quickly you'll realize your idea is probably not worth as much as you think it is, because building and refining and taking things to market, that's the hard part, actually getting it to people. If you are a coder in a job, this is probably a disaster. This is not, it's going to be a rough few years, let's put it that way. I would still recommend combining your skills, what you've been learning all these years, with something more entrepreneurial and building something, or teaming up with entrepreneurs, people who are more into marketing and creating something yourself, because the job, the 9-to-5 job of coding, of programming, is going to be a very rocky path moving forward. So again, this video and the clips we're going to make of it will probably upset a lot of people, but burying your head in the sand about what is coming is not the way. This technology is getting better. It is taken increasingly large numbers of tasks from coders and programmers, and that's not going to slow down. If anything, it's going to speed up. So if you can divert all of that frustration, all of that anger, and you can build something and you can break yourself away and you can create something that's going to be useful for the world, that is the most beneficial thing you can do, both for yourself, your community, and everyone around you. So instead of this being a disaster, I hope that vibe coding, artificial intelligence, AI-assisted coding can become something you can use to build a business, to build a product, to build something for yourself that will allow you to smooth over the next few years, which are otherwise going to be very rocky. So I'm going to put all of this in the newsletter. I'll put the presentation and all of these articles, including Should We Hate Vibe Coders, which is a really good article. I'll put it in there. I'll put also the Instagram video that everyone's getting upset about. And it will all be in the newsletter, which is entirely free. If you just go to aiwithkyle.com, you can subscribe there. It's Wednesday today, so it'll be in tomorrow's newsletter. Fantastic. I'm going to hop over to some questions. I'm sorry I've been chatting, but this is more of a presentation today. Vibe coding is here to stay, but systems knowledge is vital too. Yeah, it is. I would argue, though, that this is just another retreat point. So understanding the systems and the architecture and how we put these things together, really useful. Increasingly, we'll be able to have AIs that can help us with the architecture, that can help us with the systems knowledge as well. So the AIs might not be good enough at helping us with that stuff now. Does not mean they won't be in 2 or 3 years from now. I still think it's extremely helpful to have, because it allows you to communicate with the AI in a way that allows you to get better results. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be safe as a job moving forward. We have a new role to monitor the vibe coders. Yeah, so this is what Alberta Tech talks about. Basically, a lot of coders will become orchestrators. They will become a manager, somebody who manages the AI agents. So instead of managing a team, it would be managing a bunch of agents, guiding them, giving them direction, checking their commits, etc., rather than necessarily doing the physical writing of the code yourself. The big question here is, do we need as many orchestrators as coders? So if one orchestrator can work with 10, 20 agents, we need to hire less human beings, and hiring and manpower is generally the main cost in most businesses. And if businesses have the opportunity to hire 10 times less people and to replace the others with AI agents, they're going to take that. Now, this argument, the counterpoint to this is, oh no, we'll just hire the same amount of people, but we'll give them the AI agents and we're going to be able to produce 10 times as much. That relies on the rest of the economy growing. That relies on demand for what these companies are creating to increase, because suddenly we have a huge supply of code, a huge supply of product, but not necessarily a concomitant increase in demand, especially when our customers can start to build their own software, especially when other competitors can enter the market really easily by vibe coding product, by recreating SaaSes in an afternoon. So I don't think necessarily that demand will keep up with supply, which means a shrinking of the market and problems down the line. I coded for 20 years, haven't for 10. What's the best choice for me? Claude Code. Yeah, Claude Code's fantastic. So because you know a little bit of, well, no, you coded for 20 years because you know a lot about code. Things like the command line interface won't be scary for you. That is the massive problem for a lot of absolute non-coders when they come to the Claude Code kind of front page, and it tells you, oh, you need to go into where was it, getting started. You need to use here a curl command and then create your folders, etc., etc. For anyone who's never touched code, who has never touched the terminal, this kind of thing is absolutely terrifying. But if you know this stuff, then that's how you install it. Super easy. I personally use it in Cursor. So I use Cursor as my IDE, but I run Claude Code in the terminal. But if you are comfortable with code, then Claude Code is a no-brainer. Things like Lovable are fantastic because they give you a user interface that looks like ChatGPT, so it's a good entry point, but Claude Code is just more powerful. It just has a steeper learning curve. But with 20 years of experience, you'll be fine. Just scrolling up 1 second. For some of us in comp sci who were women, it's the perfect revenge. Take that, C++ elitists. Funnily enough, with C, this video that people are getting upset about, I talk about Linus Torvalds. So he's the guy who created Linux. And Linux is C, I think it's C? Yeah, it's created in C. But he recently did a toy project, just something for fun. I think it was a guitar pedal or some kind of audio modulator. And he had to use Python in it, and he wasn't very familiar with Python, so he vibe coded it using anti-gravity by Google. And so his commit on GitHub is basically saying, oh, I've used anti-gravity for this, and I forget the exact term, but he said, has it done this better than I could do by hand? Yes, absolutely. And this is kind of blown up, and a lot of coders are upset with Linus Torvalds for using vibe coding. But yeah, he's an OG. He created Linux in C. But even he is playing around with vibe coding, which is fascinating to see. Danny says 2027 will feel like a different planet. Yeah, it is wild to think that ChatGPT, obviously we've had AI for a longer time, but the public release of ChatGPT was 3 years and 3 months ago, roughly. And I struggle to remember the time before. I think it's a bit like the internet, like trying to remember before the internet is, how do we do anything? Evolution in every sector should always consider this, how it may occur, sad but true. So I think with coding in particular, we're seeing advances in AI coding really quickly, because a lot of the people who are working on AI are coders. They are software developers, they are computer scientists. So this is an area, a domain of their expertise, and they're obviously going to be interested in it. Also, the market forces are there. You can sell coding agents, you can sell AI agents that can do code, so you can make money there as well. So there's this idea of the jagged frontier in artificial intelligence, where it's good at some things and terrible at others. And it's good at things where we tend to focus our efforts. And a lot of the labs, including, well, especially Anthropic, are focusing on creating AI coding agents. That is what they are trying to do as fast as possible. So even if you're not a coder, even if you're not a programmer, it's actually quite useful to see what's happening in the world of coding, because it gives us an idea of how AI is going to impact other industries later. I like to think of coding and programming as like a canary in the coal mine. It's given us a preview of how AI is going to roll out in other industries. It's just happening fast and first inside of coding, because that's what the engineers know about. So they're obviously going to be able to better disrupt there. But as soon as they start to work with healthcare professionals, with legal teams, with accountancy experts, we'll see similar ripples in other industries. Hello Kyle, sound is echoing. I'm in a massive room unfortunately, so that's probably the case. I'm now hosting my apps through Vercel, V-E-R-C-E-L, probably Vercel. And I've approached the big boss. Oh, Claude Code. The good thing about it is if you do get stuck using Claude Code or using any of these tools, is you can ask Claude or you can ask ChatGPT about them. So you can literally go to Claude and say, how do I set up Claude Code? And it will help you do that. And yeah, Vercel will be the way to do it. Any thoughts on receiving clients automatically based on expertise, turn conversion? I mean, automatic clients is the ideal. It depends on your business, so it depends on what your acquisition flow is. The best way to get clients automatically is advertising, because then you have a steady flow. You optimize for leads, you run A/B tests, and then you just spend money. So that's the easiest way to do it. It just takes money, obviously. Sorry, I missed questions at the top that I'm just running through. My Claude just crashed. I'm sorry, Danny. Unfortunately, when Claude Code crashes, it loses its chat from the terminal, which is frustrating. I had a power cut where I am yesterday, and I came to sit down and look at how my Claude Code had done overnight, and everything had reset, which was very upsetting. Claude said to me to use Claude Code rather than Claude Pro due to my usage. Do you mean Claude Max plan, which is the $200 a month? That is the main problem with Claude Code, is it is expensive. You will need the $200 a month plan, realistically. You can use it on the $20 a month, but you're very quickly going to hit some limits. So it's not cheap. However, compared to the cost of all the time you save or hiring a coder, and compared to how much revenue you can generate by building stuff with Claude Code, $200 a month is, I mean, I struggle to think of a better use of $200 a month. It's not cheap, and I know not everyone can afford it, but if you can, and if you utilize it properly, and you are building things that can hopefully generate you money in the future, it's kind of a no-brainer. He said, pay by the API. That's interesting. The API is a lot more expensive than the subscription. The $200 a month plan, you actually get around, people have tried to work it out, but you get around $1,000 of API usage. So them telling you to use the API seems a bit cheeky. Use the max plan, ideally. Cool, I am going to finish up for today because I'm flying back to the UK tomorrow, and I want to get a last piece of sun before I do, so I'm going to head out for a walk. But thank you so much, everybody. I will not be doing a live tomorrow because I'm flying, and Friday I'm not sure, maybe. For those of you on the AI workshop kit though, I will see you in a few hours time. Well, later this evening I'll be doing the live at 6 p.m. London time, so I'll see you there. Thank you guys.